Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about should I give up? Now, when I deal with people who feel like giving up, it's usually somebody who is not having a lot of contact with their children. A lot of times, their child is a teenager, is refusing to see them. They're dealing with a narcissistic parent on the other side. And, they just get to the point where they're so exhausted and worn out that they're going, what do I do at this point? Do I just give up? Let me just remind you, if you like this content, don't forget to hit like on this video. Also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And as I've been saying lately, 70% of you are not subscribed. Please make sure you're subscribing. That really helps me out. And as always, feel free to share on social media because we do have a lot of people that really need help with this. I'm always amazed at just the unending stream of people that are dealing with these types of issues. So if you're feeling like you just want to give up, let me just reassure you, first of all, that you are not on your own. Okay. You are not alone. A lot of people go through this when they're dealing with a narcissistic co-parent. They just become just financially exhausted, emotionally exhausted. They're not seeing their children. They just are so tired of being beaten up that they just feel like giving up and walking away. And frankly, I see people that do that. But in answer to the question, should you give up? My answer to that is absolutely not. And even if you are at the lowest of the low, I'm going to tell you why I think you should not give up. The first thing is that your children are going to feel abandoned. And I know that when you have a teenager that's being very nasty and spewing a lot of vitriol towards you, it can really make you feel like they don't care. They're not going to feel abandoned. They don't want anything to do with me. Not true. I don't care what they're saying inside. It is not how they really feel. Okay. I remember my younger son being so angry at me one time. I think he was around 14 or 15 years old. And he went walking up the stairs in our home. And I just remember him looking back and saying, F you, you're the worst mother in the whole world. And I just kind of started laughing a little bit. Like it didn't hit the target in the way that he wanted it to. Partly because I knew that he loved me. I know I'm a good mom. I always say, you can tell me I'm bad at a lot of things. You could tell me I'm bad at this. You could tell me I suck at doing videos. You could tell me that I'm not, the greatest friend that ever lived or whatever. But the one thing I know I am good at in life is that I am a good mother. I'm an even better nanny, but I am a really good mom. And so when my son said that, it just did not hit the mark in that way. So when your teenagers are saying things like they're angry, they haven't learned to control their emotions, they haven't learned how to temper themselves a little bit. And so they'll just sometimes come with some of the nastiest, worst things. And let's not forget, they've learned to go for the jugular in that way, just like their narcissistic parent. Okay. And I don't think that you should tolerate abuse. I'm not saying that by any means. I mean, I went back after the fact and had a conversation with my son about the fact that, he was not to speak to me that way and that was not appropriate. And if that happened again, there would be consequences and all that kind of thing. I think you have to understand where that's coming from and understand that that's not really reflective of how they feel most of the time. When we get to this point, a lot of times, when the child is refusing to see us, it can just feel like they've become so aligned with their narcissistic parent. And, in a lot of ways, they may have. But the reason for that is actually pure survival. And what I say to parents is, think back on how being in that relationship with that narcissistic person or high conflict person, whatever you're dealing with, think back on what that relationship was like for you on the daily, living in the house with this person, dealing with all the conflict, dealing with the arguing, and think about what that felt like. Now, take that person and put them in authority over you and think about how much worse that situation would have been if they had actually had a significant amount of authority over you. And this is what your children are dealing with. They're dealing with that level of conflict and toxicity and all of those things, except for it's a person that has authority over them and they're a child. So think about, as an adult, how hard was it for you to extricate yourself from that relationship? And now, how difficult has your healing journey been? And you're not even seeing that person anymore, right? I mean, you have to see them some if you have kids, but theoretically, they're not really involved in the day-to-day of your life anymore at that level. And you're struggling to try to heal just from the limited interaction you have with them at this point. And now we're looking at our kids who's living there, a good percentage of the time, or maybe even half the time or whatever. And we can't figure out why that child has aligned themselves with the other parent and is saying they don't want to see you and don't want to be around you. Well, yeah, because it's survival. And so if you do oblige in that and you just give up and you be like, fine, you don't want to see me, you don't want anything to do with me, I'm just going to go away and I'm going to leave you to what you say you want. Really what happens in that child is they feel abandoned because they're kids. They don't really have the cognitive development. Do you know that children's brains our brains don't stop developing until we're 25 years old? That's the point at which your brain becomes fully formed. And I can tell you that my children are 33 and 29, and it is absolutely the truth. And my stepsons are currently 19 and 20. Absolutely the truth that they're not fully developed until they hit about 25. You'll hear jokes sometimes where people say, well, I got to be about 25. My parents got a whole lot smarter, or my kids thought I got a lot smarter once they turned, 25, 26. And it's true. There's just something about that cognition that comes full circle where they're like, oh, I get it. I mean, my kids have said to me on different occasions now, like, Mom, I don't know how you stayed in that relationship as long as you did. And in the beginning, they used to defend their dad to me and didn't understand why I felt the way that I felt sometimes. So if you give up, then you're kind of reinforcing everything that the narcissist is saying about you, right? But the narcissist is probably saying, oh, the other parent doesn't care. They don't care about you. They don't want anything to do with you. They blah, 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 blah. They're a liar. They're this, they're that. And then you go, oh, I'm so exhausted and I'm so worn out and I'm so this, I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to stop and let them do whatever. Then, the kid goes, oh, look, they're doing exactly what the narcissistic parent said. They don't care about me. They're giving up. They're walking away. So my experience is no matter how much a child tells you they don't want anything to do with you and they don't want to see you, it's actually not true. Many times it's almost like a test to see how hard you will fight or how much you do love them and want to be with them, and how much you will continue to fight for them. So my words of wisdom in this is, no, don't give up. Don't give up. I had a guy several years ago who had 4 children under the age of 5. He had gotten a 5-year DV. He was on like 2 hours of supervised visitation per week. And he's like, Tammy, I just feel like giving up and like leaving, walking away, going back to where I'm from and just starting my life over. And I said, you can't. Like, your children don't know why. They're too little. They don't know why. So you may not be in a situation where your children are necessarily teenagers and are rejecting you, but you may be in a situation where the other parent has created such a high mountain for you to climb to be able to even spend this limited time with your kids that it's hard and many people feel like giving up. But again, I will tell you, this particular client ended up with 50-50 custody about 2 years down the road. Of course, with my help with some coaching that really, I think, made a huge difference, which is very gratifying because the children need both parents. They really, where possible, unless somebody's safety or whatever is at risk, that's a different issue. But where possible, children do need both parents. I always say to them, like, I say to people, is having a narcissistic parent do some damage? Yes, but having no parent there does damage too. It's just a different kind of damage. It's almost like pick your poison. So don't give up. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're dealing with, there is a path out. There is a path forward. I would love to help you find that path. If you'd like to learn more about my services, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page. You can book a time to speak to a member of my staff, learn more about my services, and how I can help you carve a path. See you guys next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the